report this week, Indian companies make a beeline to get their brands valued. All telecom brands sing the Docomo tune. Hand sanitizers, pretty much the flavor of the season, and coming soon, lessons in marketing excellence. Welcome to the show. I'm Anuradha Sengupta. Now, a few weeks ago, we told you that Gitanjali Gems had valued its 4 flagship brands, Nakshatra, Asmi, Jili and Didamas, at 1,500 crore rupees. Gitanjali is just one of the many Indian companies that's building brands and seeking professional help to value them. The International Financial Reporting Standards, or IFRS, which demands that companies declare their brand values, expected to be adopted in India in 2011. But that's just one reason. Indian companies are getting brand conscious because brands are reaping them rich financial rewards. Shweta Sriram explains.
If brand valuation firms are to be believed, the debate on whether or not to spend on brands in a downturn is done, dusted and decided. Not only has that debate been settled in favor of brands, in the past year and a half they say companies have taken the next big step, getting their brands valued. Driving this trend is the need in tough times to secure not just the tangible assets but value the intangibles as well. The exercise also helps justify spends on the brand and maximize the benefits from it.
The largest discretionary expense of the firm is increasingly diverted to marketing, customers and distribution and other activities. So if the largest expense of the firm is actually the strategic investment into the brand, questions are being raised as what is the return on investment of these huge expenses? And currently there are no answers to it. So chairmen especially find it a very compelling reason to hire brand finance to evaluate these two very large questions which often face senior management committees.
They know that the brand is a business asset. It has a specific value and therefore an influence on the enterprise and therefore performance. And understanding it better, understanding the characteristics of the asset better, can obviously give you much more leverage if you can put your money where the better leverage is.
The value of a brand plays a big role during mergers and acquisitions. So when a company acquires another company, especially with the purpose of retaining the brand name, it may be willing to pay up to 2/3 of the entire deal amount solely for the brand. And there are two ways of doing it.
One is basically what is known as the relief from royalty method, where basically that goes on the premise that since I own a brand, I am relieved from the burden of paying a royalty to take that brand on a license from somebody else. So the value of the brand is basically that royalty which I am saving upon. That is one methodology, but it's difficult to get reliable royalty rates in the public domain for all sorts of brands. So the more, let's say the more scientific method which is used is what is known as the excess earnings method, which is basically the business in which the brand is residing, its cash flows or its earnings are basically estimated. And then from those profits, charges are taken for the other tangible and intangible assets which are having a play in that business, so that ultimately you are left with only the profits which are attributable to the brand.
For Infosys, an over 32,400 crore rupee brand, which started reporting the results of brand valuation over a decade ago, the brand is the biggest draw for investors. It came in very handy in 1999 when the company listed on the Nasdaq and had to work hard at attracting funds. Today, Infosys is a global brand and investments, clients as well as talent keeps flowing in. The value of the brand is monitored regularly and brand building efforts are carried out in line with the performance of the brand. The company has, through conscious efforts, positioned itself as a trustworthy, high-premium player, which will help greatly as it increases its focus on the consultation practice. Infosys is glad that consumers are willing to pay specifically for the brand, which in turn drives growth in revenues and profitability.
If you have a very stronger brand, your access to international market is higher, your ability to get a premium pricing is higher, your ability to generate a larger proportion of growth in the market is higher. The 80% of corporate value in terms of market valuation can be attributed to brands. So brand forms a major part of any company's value, and it's more so in a service industry like us, where the physical assets may be very less compared to market value of the companies. So I think valuing brand and putting it in the balance sheet will give a better picture to the investors on the real strength and value of the company.
In April this year, one of the youngest brands in the country, the Indian Premier League, was valued at $2 billion. The management says that while that is welcome news, it would prefer the IPL to be a profitable brand that survives the long haul. For individual team franchisees, this valuation has helped them attract investment and scale up the business. The IPL admits that this valuation is only going to help rake in more money, especially when two new teams come up for grabs in January 2010.
If you look at the first 8 owners, the reserve price for owning a franchise at that point in time was kept at a $50 million for a period of 10 years. And while we're still working the final numbers out in terms of what the value for the reserve price is going to be for the 9th and 10th franchise, it's certainly going to be multipliers of that reserve price that we had less than 2 years back.
While this 2-year young brand looks at ways to unlock value, one of India's oldest companies, Godrej, is evaluating the weight of its name. Godrej Properties will be the first company in India to announce its brand value when it launches an IPO in January. Sources say the mother brand, which went through a revamp in 2008, is also looking for an agency to determine what over 100 years of brand equity means in financial terms.
We believe that the real value of valuation is not as much as in the value, because I'm sure the value of Godrej as a brand will be stratospheric, right? Given its lineage, given its width, it reaches out to almost 1/3 of India, almost 70% of your household can be furnished using Godrej. So its depth and breadth are unprecedented. So it will obviously be very high value, and we know that. But that can only give us a certain degree of comfort. The real utility of that exercise is if we can link up all our functions, all our functional and business decision making to consumer choices and brand choices out there in the marketplace.
Brand value is also being accepted as collateral these days to raise funds from banks and financial institutions. The UB Group and Dawat brand of basmati rice are some examples. The Future Group, which will hive off its most profitable entry Big Bazaar into an individual subsidiary, also hopes the power of the retail chain's brand will help in getting more out of prospective investors. As more and more companies follow this trend, some brand experts say India needs a slightly more scientific and stringent method for brand valuation. And this may be the right time for brand valuation agencies to start working on their technique. In Mumbai, Shweta Sriram.
From brand-conscious Indian companies to short spot, Lindy has picked a spot for HSBC Bank that's been made by JWT London. Here it is.
For many people, integrity is as important as money. At HSBC, we understand that people's values influence their financial decisions. HSBC, the world's local bank.
A paparazzi with a heart? Who knew it? JWT London has come up with this wonderful story highlighting integrity as a value for the bank HSBC.
A bit bland, I thought, short spot this week, but different strokes for different folks. Coming up next on Storyboard, Tata Docomo led and others followed. We are speaking of per second billing and the new price war on the telecom front.